All right, hello and welcome to the Sustainability Leadership Series. Today's interview is with Korinne Haeffel, Director of Market Transformation and Development at U.S. Green Building Council. Korinne has a professional background in architecture and is a collaborator of the Women in Sustainability's annual International Women's Day event. So I have had the pleasure of working with Korinne over the last several years as a co-planner. So thanks so much for being here today, Korinne, and welcome.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation with you today.
Yeah, awesome. Why don't we start with just telling us about your role at US GBC and how you work to drive sustainable actions across the region.
Sure. So I joined the U.S. Green Building Council back in 2013. I'm part of their market transformation and development team, like you said. It is a lack of a better way of putting it, sort of a catch-all department in which we act as liaisons between our community of members and stakeholders and the national office and all the tools and resources that are available. So we are all about convening our local leaders, members, and stakeholders around not only sharing resources and making sure that they're up to date on trends and happenings, but so that they can also share that information with our team and it gets fed back up into the work that we're doing with all of the different initiatives and research and tools and resources that we put out to make sure that the market is well supported in both directions and informed.
Okay, makes sense. I think we'll talk a little bit more about those tools. Before we do that, what are you seeing USGBC members working on currently, and what trends do you see that you're sort of excited about in the green building world?
Well, there are several trends that are all happening sort of simultaneously right now, very much driven and amplified by the pandemic, which only further highlighted the importance of several green building values that have been in place for quite a while, but maybe weren't in the forefront. So things like resilience and health and wellness. I mean, we've heard a lot about indoor air quality and even energy independence and things like that, right, with the supply issues and things that have been happening. So there, those market pressures, along with a few other trends that might not immediately be apparent as an influence on the green building industry. So things like ESG reporting and the SDGs that are becoming more and more important within standard business practice. Those are starting to manifest within the green building industry in a way where green building professionals and building professionals in general are starting to be called on to help answer a lot of those demands and align with the goals that are tied with ESG and SDGs. So we're seeing this start bubbling up worldwide and nationwide from pressures that individuals are getting from the marketplace. So with all of that said, though, the part that I'm personally most excited about and really wanting to talk with our Wisconsin stakeholders about is this idea about the importance of ongoing performance, and that single green buildings are not enough to meet all of these demands and market trends, right? It's fantastic to build a LEED certified building and have this design and construction, but one and done is no longer, and never has been for that matter, enough. In order to meet the resilience demands, in order to meet the indoor air quality demands, there's ongoing maintenance and operational procedures that need to go hand in hand. And what was super green 2, 10, 20 years ago isn't best practice now. And every building starts to, degrade the second that you open it up. Just like a car. When the second you hit the road with a car, it starts to degrade and rust and whatever. Buildings are similar. We need to pay attention to that and take advantage of the operational components and doing that in a sustainable and holistic way, so that we're taking into account all of these other factors that are important for our occupant and community health and well-being long term.
That's super interesting. Can you think of an example maybe that might be relevant of a more current best practice that's newer?
Well, you know what? We're actually featuring a, a a dual lead certification building in our member meeting on August 10th.
Okay,
We have partnered with the Milwaukee Bucks,
awesome.
and we will be convening our stakeholders at Fiserv Forum.
Okay,
And the reason we're going there is that for those of who aren't familiar, Fiserv Forum was built to lead building design and construction standards. So it earned a LEED silver rating when it opened, thanks to design and construction. And then just in the last year, they recertified it using our operations and maintenance LEED rating system under version 4.1. So we're going to be going there and talking with the Milwaukee Bucks leadership about why did they do that? Why did they understand that as a community leader and stakeholder that it was important for them to do these things? Because as much as I'd like to say that it is a common trend for someone to go from the inception of a building and through operations and understand that you know they have an obligation to keep doing better, it's not always done. You know, and the Bucks really have a wonderful set of goals and leaders and some really ambitious things they want to do to not only make sure that you know the games and the occupants and their guests are well treated and that they're you know they have an efficient building that's not you know causing them problems long term, but they see it as a bigger community impact. So it's going to be really a wonderful discussion that we're going to be having with them about that.
Yeah, that makes sense as like a community gathering space, is a lack of a better term. I mean, it's around sports events, and I know I've gone to concerts there. I've gone to, you know, Monster Jam with my son. I can see how the operational aspect of how they're operating the building ongoingly is an important component. So, and that's actually interesting to me because I don't know that I realized that you had different certifications for like the building and operation. So could you say a little bit more about the difference in those certifications?
Sure. So I'm probably going to oversimplify this. So definitely, you know, reach out to me if you have other questions.
Okay.
But so we have rating systems and certifications from USGBC that address all stages of a life cycle of a building. So from the inception of the idea to building it up, you know, from ground up to operations and maintenance. Any building can engage with the LEED rating system at any time of its life cycle. So if it's an existing building that was built to normal building code standards, or if it was LEED certified previously, anybody can engage in the operations and maintenance aspect. So the thing to remember though is that, so for example, if you build a building from ground up using the new construction standard, the LEED certification, that means that the design and the construction of those buildings were done sustainably. It does not mean that your building is being operated sustainably.
Makes
so
sense.
It means that your building should be capable of running the way that you designed it for. And every LEED building is slightly different because it's a rating system that has a set of prerequisites that gives you a bar that you have to reach at a minimum, but everything else is sort of a la carte. So you have to, as an owner, work with your design team and your construction team to find the right set of goals and thresholds and things throughout the energy and atmosphere categories to the water and waste and things that fit your operational needs best. And through that, then you'll earn additional points to get your rating if it's certified silver, gold, or platinum. Now, that does not mean that your building is going to perform at that level moving forward if you don't have a plan to do so. So with the LEED version 4.1, the operations and maintenance aspect of our rating system is performance based. So it's really where the rubber hits the road, where we want to see that the building is performing at the efficiency levels that it should be. So we have a platform that powers LEED called ARC, and this platform happens to be a free tool to anybody to use, and it can lead to certification under the LEED operations and maintenance, and some of our others too, because it is able to compare and contrast things. It also has wonderful tools built in, and partners like Moody's and Schneider Electric and a slew of others that can help track, including Energy Star, portfolio manager, that feed into the platform in order to help you track performance in a meaningful way to you. Again, it's a free tool. And if someone wants to opt in to certify, then they can pay the registration fees and such. But it lets any building track and benchmark their performance across all of the categories that USGBC and the LEED rating system deem important. So it allows you to do it at, one category at a time. If you're only caring about energy to start, you can look at just energy, or you can go through the whole aspect and look at transportation and, indoor quality and whatnot. So that allows a building project immediately to really look at, is my building performing the way that it is? Do I need additional help to bring in to make sure to recalibrate a system or something to make sure it's functioning, or just to monitor and make sure that you're watching where system failures are happening, or maybe that you're exceeding the expectations of the design of the building, and really accelerating and celebrating those impacts.
That's fantastic. I mean, I think tools like that are really useful for sustainability professionals, for operations folks, for, obviously they're worried about what's happening inside their facility and not necessarily thinking about the performance of the space. It kind of takes it to the next level. So, who are the main users of ARC in that tool? I know you said it's free, but I'm thinking like in the lens of a business, right? Or they might have multiple facilities that they can manage through there, or they might, a lot of times we get questions about if you're a occupant in a building that you don't own, could you also participate?
Absolutely. You can do it at a tenant finish out scale, or you can do it as a whole building scale. And there's even portfolio management within the tool. Okay. So we have some users that have, one small, space that they're occupying, and then we have others that have hundreds of buildings that they're monitoring and tracking through the ARC platform. We have partnerships with larger organizations like the Green Sports Alliance, that has a lot of professional teams that are all of their membership, and they're all working towards a program called Play to Zero, and trying to green up, the sports industry and the buildings and facilities tied to that. And then we have, the general mom and pop shops that just want to do better or take advantage of, incentive dollars or things that are available in their areas, and they need a way to provide verifiable proof that they're exceeding expectations. And with the demands now that we're seeing come down the pike because of ESG reporting and supply chain issues, where we have these larger organizations, international organizations that have market pressures from the EU or wherever, to have the people down the supply chain responding to sustainability needs, taking a look at and properly managing the built environment within your organization is a quick and easy, verifiable way to adhere to and have something quick to report in those instances. So we're seeing really an embracement of the built environment for these organizations, going from a place that they just happen to put all their employees to do the work, to it becoming a tool in their toolbox, to enhance everything that they're doing and their story. I had a conversation with a member recently, who I won't name, but they were talking about the fact that, they were a very sustainable group. Like, it was well known that they were very sustainable, but what they were putting outward, what they were reporting on to the public, did not reflect the full scope of the work that they had done. And they were actually starting to see a loss of awards of projects because it appeared that other organizations were better because their storytelling, their ability to show verifiable justification and proof that they were doing what they were doing, and the face that they put forward wasn't right. So they were, they were talking with me and others about how to make a shift and do that in a better way. So yeah, it's a really an exciting time to be watching sustainability, because I know that a lot of us, I don't think there's a person across sustainability, regardless if it's built, in the building industry or not. We've all had that conversation of, oh, this is moving so slow. Why isn't it clicking?
Yeah.
And right now there's so many different little factors in the marketplace that are all kind of finally coming together, that that the industry is waking up to. And it's going to be every individual's choice on whether or not it's a hindrance or a really big opportunity to excel and make a mark. And personally, I think it's an opportunity more than anything.
It absolutely is. Yeah, I love that. That's such a great story. It reminds me also, I had a conversation with a member a couple of months ago who was saying something similar, like, oh my gosh, like people on my team are coming to me with ideas that I have been saying we should do for 10 years. And now all of a sudden everybody's like, we should do this. Why aren't we doing this? Like, what about this? And what about this? And she was just like, yep, okay. It's like, I have to keep myself in check, like not be, ego-based saying, I've been saying this for 10 years, people, why are you just finally listening? And instead saying, great idea. How can we get that done? Right.
Well, and you always have to meet people where they're at. And there's some reality in the idea that the impacts of climate change and the thing, the environmental impacts and all that, like, unless you're feeling it personally, it's really an abstract idea, right?
Yeah, it's hard to grasp.
And it's hard to grasp. And if it's not impacting your day to day, or you don't understand how it's impacting your day to day, it's really difficult to then make adjustments to your lifestyle or way of thinking to move things forward. So, if there was a silver lining to the pandemic and all the social unrest and things of the last few years, I think it's highlighted a real need for comprehensive approaches to everything that we do, and making sure that we're not just narrow-minded and tunnel visioned on a single output, right?
Yeah.
Like I need a new warehouse, I need a new office building. Like, that's great, but what is that office building? How is that office building going to be long term? Can it be deconstructed? Can you bring in and train individuals in the local community and embrace the job force and help create trained, educated individuals that can then go feed back into the greater community? Will your building take away from the community's resources, or be even, or even potentially be a positive aspect of the community? We have to stop thinking about things in an isolated pinpoint way. Right. Everything's interconnected, and I think we're starting to see that now with all of the shutdowns and the things that I don't know about you, but supply chain was definitely not in my normal nomenclature prior to the pandemic, and now I'm very aware of the impacts that an issue downstream can have on whether or not I'm getting toilet paper.
Yeah. Very important example. Absolutely. Yeah. And sustainability, right? What I talk to sustainability professionals about and what we teach in our Pathways program is, coming at it from that systems approach, right? Which is exactly what you're thinking about, or what you're expressing, right? In terms of understanding the interrelatedness of all systems, whether it's in a business or it's in a building. I go back to Fiserv and thinking about that space and everything that they've done. Of course, it's a sports entertainment complex, but they've also created such a multiple functions for that space, right? There's farmers markets there now. There's, community gatherings. There's it becomes an extension of community versus just a sports complex, which is what the old arena was. So I think that's kind of an easy example to kind of grab onto, to understand how thinking beyond just one focus or one, idea for a space or a business, and beyond that, I think it's important for people to think about that in their business. And I think that's why a tool like ARC is, so useful for companies to help understand the interrelatedness inside the systems, inside their building, and that performance can be driven in a lot of different ways in a building. Yes, it's energy. Yes, it's air quality. Yes, it's, climate control for human comfort. And all of that has very direct effect on the wellness and health and overall well-being of your employees and your workforce. And again, it's interrelated. So
yeah. Well, and the beauty of ARC is that almost anybody can input data into it. It doesn't require you to have technical expertise to really start taking advantage of it, especially if you're already working with one of the existing partners. If you're already feeding information into Energy Star, all you have to do is put your Energy Star project number into ARC, and it will automatically start feeding into it and running the algorithms for ARC in there. So we did our best to make this a meaningful tool that provides valuable data and impacts, results while trying not to hinder the ability to use it. There are some wonderful practitioners and service providers that can really take it to the next level. But I mean, people can go on right now, log into ARC and activate a project within 5 minutes. It's outstanding. And if they have a LEED certified building, so if they have one of those new construction buildings, all they have to do is use that project number to look it up in the system, and it's already there. They just have to hit a button and activate it, and it goes live. You can also, some of the projects and portfolios are publicly available. Some of the project teams make them available, so you can go and peruse and see what other people are doing, or how it's going. And there's a really interesting section on the ARC website where they're quantifying the impacts of the projects and buildings that are in there. So on a day-to-day basis, you can look at real-time data about the projects that are active in ARC.
Super cool. Yeah. So I want to switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit about leadership. But before we do that, can you share how people can find the ARC tool and maybe what the website link is?
Yeah. So I think I'll provide it so you can put it in any write-ups that you do in the follow-up. But it's I have to actually look it up to make sure I spell this right. So it's ARC and it's skoru.com. So it's ARCSKORU.com. Okay. And you can find pretty much everything there related to ARC, and there's a lovely videos and demos and trainings, and they're all quick and easy to look at. There's a 20-minute video that gives you a complete overview of, in a little bit more detail than what I just shared, that can be watched there. And then of course, anyone can feel free to reach out to me, and I can connect them with the ARC team and help make those connections. Because like I said, as a member of the market transformation and development team, I'm that connector to help. I'm the expert at finding the experts for you.
I understand that role, absolutely. So do you want to share your email now, or should we save that for the end?
Sure. Okay. So it's my first initial and last name. So it's KHAE as in Edward, double F as in Frank, E as in Edward, L, and that's at usgbc.org.
Great. And I'll go ahead and include that in the email that we send out so that folks can easily access it there. But
sure.
Awesome. Well, great conversation so far. This is a leadership series. So I did want to ask you some specific sort of leadership questions. So switching gears a little bit, I just was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about your personal leadership journey.
Wow. Yeah. It's a long one. It's a long one. You had provided this question ahead of time, and I was trying to kind of like think through it to see, if I could pinpoint how I got here, right? Mm-hmm. By nature, even though I fake it really well, I'm an introvert, and I find myself having to fight the urges to not speak up and not be really present and in any sort of aspect. When I was younger, I was really quite shy and struggled a bit. But I had a really strong mom who always stood up for us in ways where she wasn't, taking over the role for us per se, but she made sure to like be present. She was always volunteering. She was starting, PTO organizations at schools that we moved, school districts we moved into because there wasn't one, and she wanted to make sure that we had a place to play. So she ran an entire fair. So I got to watch this strong role model as I was growing up, making a point of saying that there's no hurdle you can't overcome. It might be uncomfortable. You might have to learn something new, but like put yourself in it. So, and she was never blatant about that, right? Like it wasn't, hey, Korinne, you need to figure this out. You need to do this. It was never that. It was always just leadership by example. And then as I got older, I had the pleasure of having wonderful teachers and things. And because of watching my mother put herself out there that way, I was able to find that courage and to allow myself to embrace the really uncomfortable nature of putting myself out there, and got better and better at it as I matured. And then I would say that I was blessed to have found a group of seasoned women professionals when I first entered the architectural profession right out of school. And it was a group of 6 or 8 women that were tied to what was then the Wisconsin Green Building Alliance. And they graciously took me under their wing and invited me to participate in this group that they called the Green Women. And we originally started out, it was supposed to be like a book club or something, and it never ended up that. It ended up being this lovely get together time where we would just talk, and they would tell stories about their career and their paths. And that's when I learned that it was perfectly okay that a career path isn't completely plotted out, and that you take each opportunity as it comes and try to follow your gut. And sometimes you'll make mistakes and sometimes you won't, but no matter what, you learn and get something out of whatever those experiences are. So that's why for me, when the opportunity within, I was down an architectural career path. I was studying for my licensure. I was, I was designing buildings and working for firms. And when the opportunity presented itself to shift from a volunteer with WGBA, which is now US Green Building Council, when the opportunity came up to shift from the traditional architectural role into this one where I'm working for a nonprofit, that was why I was willing to take that gamble. And unintentionally, I think I've grown into a person who strives to make sure that everyone else can shine. So I'm in a role now that allows me to have conversations with all walks of life within the building industry, leverage my background and my, my architectural degree and my experience within buildings, and my experience with that wonderful group of women, and watching my mother and understanding that sometimes all it takes is an individual to give you a moment of respect and trust and belief, and never answer the question for them, but help them find a path that they find that answer themselves. So that drives a lot of the work that I do with our emerging professional group that we're currently trying to grow. I always have an open door policy with everybody, but especially my APs, in which, and even our women in sustainability group, I've had some really outstanding conversations with them as well, of like everything from, I just don't know how to craft my path within my current employer, to I'm just lost and I don't know what to do, and just helping them find the tools and the resources and the space to breathe, that where they feel safe and can move forward. And I have the luxury of being able to do that while helping shift sustainability within Wisconsin. And while I'm proud of every single LEED certified building, And I'm proud of every, credentialed individual and the shifting, and I'm proud to work with all of our volunteers. I have to say that when I am able to help those individuals that are struggling move forward within this realm, that's probably where I get the most satisfaction. So
I love that. That's such a great story. Thank you so much for sharing all those pieces. I mean, from having a strong female role model as your mother to, finding peers and allies that can support your career growth, to turning around and helping give that back to your community through your role and your work. I hear that you took a risk, you took a chance at sort of trying a different type of role, and that worked out for you. So yeah, I'm just kind of pulling these little nuggets out that I heard from you, but really, really beautiful story. And thank you for sharing all of that. I guess the follow-up question is, sort of what leadership qualities do you think are necessary or needed today to lead us into the future? And how can sort of listeners embody those qualities from learning from what you've learned along the way?
Yeah, it's almost like a trick question, right? Because I don't think there's a special sauce. And I think it's good. I think there's a diversity that's required in leadership styles in order to bring our entire community together and along, right? So I am aware that my very outgoing, passionate, extroverted introvertness is not motivating to all people. Right? There's a need for passion in the industry, but there's also a very strong need for leaders who are quiet and listen and that have meaningful interaction. And so I think if I had to pick a leadership quality, it would be that no matter what your leadership style is, allowing the space for everyone's leadership style to shine. And understanding that, like in my case, being quick and loud and passionate and like ready to go is not always the right answer for every situation. And allowing those other voices to have a space is important. So, in my case, stepping back and allowing the time and space for those people that are more contemplative leaders to reflect and to add, interject things, and everything will move along in its own pace and time, but it will be richer and more long-lasting and sustainable in the traditional sense of the word, when all of those voices and partners and players are allowed that space and time to contribute. So I think, in my opinion, I think that's the most important thing, that we all foster the ability to make space and invite others in to contribute. Right? There's no such thing as a leader that has all of the answers or the right way. And I think that's something that has hindered success of numerous things, green building and beyond, over the years. And as I grow my my personal, DEI arsenal of tools and resources and eye-opening, there's just a lot of stuff that I'm more aware of now, more prepared to sort of respond to, just so that I'm a better leader all around. And I think that others can do the same and really make the space and be an ally to everybody around them.
Yeah. Awesome. I hear a lot of really important things in there, Korinne. It's so great. Like, just, allowing people to find their own voice. I mean, you didn't say that explicitly, but like not assuming your way is their way, or what works for you is going to work for them, and cultivating the space and sort of, I'm thinking of it through an analogy of like nurturing the soil around a plant so that the plant can healthily grow, right? Can grow to its fullest potential. It's sort of the same concept around us is, nurturing the atmosphere, the environment, the culture, so that each of us can really find our own flower. I don't know. That's not really what I was thinking. I was thinking with my analogy there.
Yeah, so. No, you're right on. And on the flip side, there's also an important lesson in understanding, to use your analogy, when the soil's dead.
Yeah. Indeed.
Right?
Yeah.
When the individual or the initiative is more work than an effort, then what will come out of it? If it's an individual, if it's an initiative, whatever, like understanding that sustainability is huge. We can pick all kind of different avenues and little niche things at a small scale, at a large scale. It's all interconnected. But fighting an uphill battle on one niche item or one niche individual that you just really want to alter might not be as valuable as taking a bigger picture look and finding something, adjacent and getting that, effort and initiative off the ground, because then you might find that that individual or that initiative gets traction a little bit later on because of the other work that you're doing and being strategic about that as well. And yeah, we just have to start thinking, to say the greater good almost seems cliche and, I don't know, it makes me groan a little bit. But the reality is that, we've learned the hard way during the pandemic that we're all interconnected, if we like it or not. What we do influences the person next to us, our neighbors, our community, etc. So hopefully that will highlight our ability to be compassionate and be supportive and help everybody, move forward together, because we're not getting anywhere if we just move a small group of people.
Right.
We have to figure out a way to bring the whole community along.
Yeah, absolutely. Such great words of wisdom, Korinne. Thank you so much for this conversation today. It was so fun to chat with you and get to learn a little bit more about what USGBC is up to and the trends that you see. I know you shared your contact information, so I will share that out with our listeners, and just want to say thank you to everybody for listening, and remind you that we have a member drive going on. Our membership is 40% off for the rest of the year. So hopefully you will join us as a member. All right. Thanks, Korinne.
Thank you.